Welcome, quilters. How many of you are not fond of doing feathers, or even not fond of seeing feathers on your quilts, but you need something where normally a feather would go? I have you covered. We have two new tools called frond feathers. You can use them in place of feathers, and we can do so much more with them. The frond feathers were designed by Quilter's Rule, but inspired by Quilters on the Run, also known as Chris Vieira. So if you've ever seen some of the work she does, she is a free arm long armor. She does spectacular work, and you will find her quilt in the National Quilt Museum, and it's called Tiger Tiger. I believe she actually has 2 quilts in there, but you should check it out sometime. So these quilts were inspired by her, and we figured out how to do what she does freehand. Come take a look at these wonderful tools. So please note they are frond feathers, not feathered fronds, because we are using them in place of a feather. As I said, each one has 2 feathers on it, and each one has a key. Now, why do we have a key on it? Well, because when we start playing with the tools in ways that you know I'm going to be different, we need to be able to turn the tool over and not have to break our thread. And of course, the primary reason is some long arm machines cannot raise and lower their foot, so they have to have an opening to be able to get into it. Now, even though home machines can raise and lower their foot, you still will want to have the key there, because sometimes we don't want to break the thread and we're going to turn the template over. And you want the key to stay in, because you do not want this opening to be moving or getting wider when you're pushing against it. So let's just worry for the first time about the line that's right here, the base line, or if you want to have the tip of the feather touching a particular line, then you would use the top line. So let's take a look at this. I have the poplar right here. I've just finished doing the first poplar, and so now I'm going to slide my template down the channel. I'm going to keep my baseline lined up on whatever is on my quilt that I'm using for a baseline. And can you see right here the magenta line? Each template has got a magenta line that will show your stitch line. And once I've got my baseline lined up and I've moved my channel over, I'm also making sure that I'm as close as possible with the magenta line. So now we can stitch down the channel. And we're going to return to the poplar spot. Now, when you play with this tool, you're going to feel there's this little kind of, not so much a stop, but you can feel where the leaf is going to move. And that's my stop point. And so you always want to make sure that you're kind of centered right in that spot. So we're going to slide the template again. Now, if you want your leaves overlapping, by all means, choose a different spot and your leaves will overlap. Or you use the full channel and you put in another leaf. Now, it doesn't matter if you go along the bottom edge or the top edge at first. Use whatever is most comfortable for you. Okay, and then we're going to slide again. Line it up. So you can go along the top first. It doesn't matter. I've gotten slightly off, so I'll get it back to straight. Now, as you can see, this is making a lovely little look. It's something different from feathers. But now let's say you want to look more like a leaf. So maybe you want to get that little stem piece in there. That's simple enough to do. We're going to come along here. And when I do this, I really prefer to be going along the bottom and then the top. But again, you should play with your tool to see what works best for you. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to slide my template, and I'm keeping it up against my foot. And so now I'm looking to see where I want that little stem piece to go in there. Now remember, your template is 1/4 of an inch away, so you may want to get this little gauge or any measuring gauge that has a 1/4 inch tab on it. So I'm going to line it up there, and I'm going to say, okay, yeah, that's about where I want my stem line to be. So now I'm just going to use the template itself to put in the stem line. When I get back to here, I'm going to return it to the baseline, slide my template, and put in my next one. So now we're going to slide. And if you're really wanting to have nice leaves and different leaves, don't worry about it being in the same spot each time. You're going to want to vary it a little bit. Let's get you back to straight. So when I do this, I really do prefer to be going down the bottom to the top, but if you prefer the top to the bottom, by all means, do what is most comfortable for you. I want more of a curve on this one, so I'm going to slide it down, and now I'm going to get that curve in there and back. So here you can see how the fronds are going to look. Okay, so now let's look at how the fronds are going to be. This is spike right here. You can have spike be right up against each other. You can separate it apart. If you want it separated apart like this one, you're just going to go down the channel and then slide your template again and then go down the channel again. This one is ash, and you can see how ash is going to look. This is poplar, which is the one we just demonstrated, and this is briar. So let's take a look at briar and see how we got that look. So with briar, you're going to have 2 spots that are going to come to a point. You got one here, go around, and then you have a second one, and you come back down. I'm thinking this is going to look really nice on some Christmas designs. And if you want your stem in there, we're just going to slide the template a little bit. Don't do too much because it is very narrow down at the tip here. We slide our template over, line up the stitch lines. This is the magenta line that I'm lining up on. There we go. So you can see how, if I want them to touch, you want to get your stitch lines and your magenta line lined up. Whoops. Now, whenever you put that stem line in there, you might change and adjust where you come back to. So always look at that magenta. But now let's say I want those to be further apart. I don't want them to be touching. I'm going to go back to the start point, slide my template again, and now my briar leaves are a little further apart. So now you can see how you can get a different look by placing them a little further apart. Now, let's play with another design. And for that, I'm going to go ahead. I'm still going to work with it. It's still going to be along these lines, but I'm going to work with it this way because I'm going to play back and forth, okay? So now, let's play with the spike one this way. Okay, even though I'm going vertically now, I'm still lining up my baseline. The baseline is still critical. And I have a little bit of tape, but not a lot, because I'm actually going to be going back and forth a lot. So don't be surprised if the tape comes off. It's just easier to move it. All right, still going to start at the stop. And here you can see it a little bit better. Can you see that kind of, that bend right there? And when you put your template against it, you can feel where that slight corner is. That's my start point, and you can feel it there. So there's just, you can see it a little bit right here. Each of them have that spot on the bottom edge. All right, so now I want to put a leaf on the other side. So I'm going to take my key off, flip my template over, put it back on, flip my key over so it fits back. So now I'm still lining up my baseline, okay? I'm still lining my baseline up on my line that's on my quilt, and I'm going to stitch up, you can determine how long you want that little extra stem to be. We'll take our key out, flip our tool over, line up our baseline, and continue on. You don't have to put the stem in there. If you want to, great. If you don't want to, by all means. Nothing says you have to put it in there. It's your quilt. Do what you want. And if you want more of a curve in there, just slide the template down to get that curve in there. And voila, lovely design. So let's take a look at this. Going up a beautiful border, there's spike going up a border, there's briar, and this is poplar. So that's the traditional way to use the template. Let's have some fun. So when you look at the template, we talked earlier, this is our baseline for the poplar, and this is the baseline for the top line for the poplar as well. But if you look close, you're also going to see a line right here and a corresponding line that if you did it would go more or less through the top and the bottom of this leaf. As anybody who knows me, spirograph was my favorite toy. And I love to take designs that were meant to be done as a singular linear line and find out what it will happen if I rotate it around a block. So let's go see what happens. So I've already put an 8-line stencil and put all 8 points on my line. And I'm going to line up. I'm not going to use the baseline here. I'm going to use the line that is going through the tip of the template and through the bottom of the template. So again, this is when it's important to get that feel that where that little corner, that little crook is. And so now this is going to put the tip, that little point on this leaf, right on that line right there. And this is going to help me keep it even. All right, now I'm not going to put the little stem in. We're just going to ignore that for now. We're going to rotate to the next axis, line up and line up, keep those out of my way, and stitch again. Isn't that just a perfectly lovely design? Who would imagine that was in there in that leaf? But you don't think I'm stopping there, do you? Not me. Mm-mm. So this is not a symmetrical design. It is an asymmetrical design, which got me wondering, what would happen if I flipped the leaf and did it again? All right, so now we're going to line it up just the way we did earlier. I'm up against that little corner piece in there, and once again, I'm lining this up so that the tip is going to stop on that line. So, all lined up. Rotate to the next axis and repeat. And voila! What an absolutely beautiful design. Now, yes, you put a lot of stitching into the center there. But you know what? Last time I looked, flowers have centers, yellow centers, and that's just perfect. And if it bothers you too much, that's what buttons and yo-yos are for. Or put a bead in there. Or Swarovski crystal. Let me show you the results of my playing. And when I flipped it over, that's what it did. Personally, not my cup of tea, but maybe it is yours. And then I played with lining up slightly different in different spots. You can always change where your lines are. Just make a note on your template, okay? But then I did this one, and this is a 16 point, all the same direction. And that one I really liked. So personally, me, I'm not going to flip my ash, but maybe that's what you want to do. All right, so this was the start where we played with, this is spike, this is ash, this is poplar, and this is the poplar flipped, and this is briar. Now the lovely thing about briar is you have 3 spots that you could line up on, and you can get a different look. So we played with that. So remember when I told you to count, if you've ever seen me in rotating a block, to count? Here I didn't count. And don't ask me how I did this, but then I decided, well, that works as a flower with a stem. So, you know, sometimes mistakes are perfect. This is lining up on the bottom point of it. And so when I flipped, I then again lined up on the bottom. But this one is lined up on the top one. So you can see how even though both of them are a rotate and flip and rotate again, you're getting a very different look. I personally don't like this one, but Alexa loves it. So again, you have to allow for everybody's personal designs. And while I thought spike would not look good, flipped and rotated, oh boy, did it. Turned out much better than I thought it would. These over here, I change what I am lining up on. So you can see all the different looks that you can have to make your frond feathers not just a beautiful border design, but also a block design. And here, I took a 6-point grid and put a double set of feathers on just 3. And I think that turned out pretty well as well. I would love to see pictures of what you decide to do. Frond feather 1 contains poplar and briar. Briar is the one with the 3 points at the top. They come in 1/8 inch, 3/16 and 1/4 inch. 1/8 inch is good on low shank machines. Some low shank machines do better with 3/16. Some high shank prefer 3/16. And all long armors should be using 1/4 inch. And some high shank machines, such as Bernina, also prefers 1/4 inch. And Frond feathers 2 does ash and spike, and again they come in all three thicknesses. These templates were designed by Quilter's Rule, inspired by Quilter on the Run or Chris Vieira, and we have more coming. I hope you have a wonderful time quilting.